it no secret that I'm not excited for the 2017 lineup from NERF. We've got a $25 really cool looking Buzzbee Baron, which was a $5 blaster. Then you've got 3 Spectre reshells. But there were a couple of things that looked good, and even though they were functionally similar to blasters we've got in the past, I still kind of figured I'd get them because they have a gimmick, and that's why I've got here today the Modulus Barrel Strike. And right off the bat, this was a blaster that, until I got my hands on it, I really didn't know what I was in for, because I saw pictures of it, and I expected this thing to be bulbous and ugly and ew, and it turns out this thing is tiny. Very tiny. And yet it works perfectly. Now, the thing with the Barrel Strike is that it's a pistol with a little stock on it, it's a Jolt Prime, and it has a 4-dart smart AR system, so every single time you prime it, you pull this down, fire it, pull down, fire it, pull down, fire it, pull down, fire it, and then you have to front reload 4 more darts, which is not the worst thing ever. That makes this a capable sidearm, but the best part about all this is when I press this little switch right here, I can flip that up, sometimes it will do it automatically. There is a spring system right here in the back that will help it up, and that lets me use it as a barrel attachment. It actually will work on any air and strike blaster that has that same barrel attachment. So if I take the Modulus Garbage Scout here, and I just hook that sucker on there, suddenly I've got a 4-dart under-barreled thing. I mean, it's not going to be any useful with this thing, not that this thing is useful even by itself, but if you have something like the original Modulus or a Strife or anything that allows a front barrel attachment, a Raven, I'm sure there's probably a lot more. I'm trying to remember which Strife reshells have barrel attachment points and which ones don't. But you can obviously have your, grip right there, fire darts, and you can still easily manipulate this one on the front, although with the way this thing is freakishly long right now, I can't pull that back. It's just not feasible. And it's still a really good blaster regardless of that. I mean, it is tiny. This thing is, if I wanted to just remove the stock attachment point and use this for a little sidearm pistol, I think it's perfectly capable of doing that thing. In fact, it might be even slightly smaller than the 4 Victory. And I know the 4 Victory is probably a more practical blaster because it has the hammer shot style prime, but then there's the whole factor of, that's a lot of draw. That is a lot of draw. And the catch does not seem to be a standard Jolt catch. There does seem to be something that's slightly different here. And the barrel does lock into place up at the front, so if you want to kind of pull that switch back, it will lock down. And then again, if I depress this button, it will kind of flip up a little bit, and you can kind of help it into the barrel position. But, I mean, for 15 bucks, for how good a useful of attachment that would be, I mean, that's 4 shots. Now, I know they have the big, bulky, huge hamp-style thing that came with the Tri-Strike, but until we can get that separately, that's kind of an expensive little thing to put on there. And honestly, it doesn't really look that good on basically any blaster I've put it on. It's just really bulbous and ugly. And mine, and pretty much everybody else's that I've seen, has the same problem where sometimes, most of the time, the top 2 Mega Darts will fire at the same time. So, if you want something that doesn't fire Mega Darts, and you don't really want to use a little Modulus grip-handled 2-dart shooter thing, well, this is a lot more practical. It is more expensive than all those, but it's its own separate blaster. I mean, just the fact that it's a little tiny pistol with a stock on it, I know somebody's gonna like that. I cannot be the only one. And the best part is the performance is pretty decent out of the box, hitting in the low to high 50s. So, not a whole lot there to hate, but I'm really curious. There is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 freaking screws in this thing, not counting the backside, which you'd also have to take apart because it's clammed on there. And I mean, maybe this thing has the potential to do some amazing power, but even kind of looking at the silhouette right here, I mean, if this whole thing is a plunger tube, probably, I gotta find out, so I'll be back in a second. Well, the good news is not a heck of a lot of dead space like with the Strike and Defend stock. They're using almost this entire plunger, which is great. And this, again, this system is just so compact right here. that is awesome. The bad news is, to get into this thing, you have to take off, like, what, 16 screws? Which is insane. And to make it even worse, this thing won't just come apart. Maybe it's just me, but this thing would not come apart. And I actually had to kind of... Oh, there goes the trigger. Actually, I had to kind of twist the shell because one side of the plunger tube, like, see, this whole section of the blaster will not come out. And one side of the plunger tube had a screw on it. So it's screwed in on, like, both sides. And I still can't get this out. I'm not going to force it any more than I have, but it just will not come out. So it might just be mine, but yeah, the good news is, yeah, it's rather compact and well done. There's not a whole lot of dead space, just that stuff right there. Bad news is, yeah, it's almost really, really hard to take apart, and on top of that, the trigger has got one of those little plastic spring leaf things up there, so, yeah, that's gonna not bode well for the catch. I was really hoping this wasn't using a not a night finder, but a jolt-style trigger release, and it was, which is a shame. But there still might be some hope. I just don't think there's a whole lot of hope because these, these catches can't. I don't think they can be reinforced all that much, but maybe if you really, really, really tried. But even stock, I mean, low to high 50s, not too shabby. And like I said, this whole system is so compact. This thing, you could take that off and notice how it feeds in right there in the middle as opposed to the top or anything. That would make a killer absolver for something, I dare say, Mr. Captain Xavier. You're probably going to want to mess with that a little bit. So after taking it apart, which was not fun, my opinions of it are still pretty high. There does seem to be a little bit of potential there. It's a very compact system, and the way that smart AR system feeds in air through the middle like that, I see some potential uses for just that piece alone, let alone the fact that it's a far more useful, long draw, big plunger jolt setup than compared to the strike and defend stock. But there's a whole problem with it. Yeah. Well, if you think you could use it, you certainly can. The $15 won't bother you, but for $15, that's pretty pricey. You can get strifes for that much. You can definitely get hammer shots and strong arms for that much. You can get the legend fire from Dart Zone and stuff for that much. That's pretty pricey. So it's not going to kill you if you want it, but if you don't think it's useful, I probably wouldn't bother unless you saw the internals and think you can do something. That catch mechanism on the jolts are notoriously kind of bad. It's going to be kind of hard to reinforce that to take a higher spring load, but I'm welcome to be proven wrong. Hopefully somebody else can take a crack at it, or I can figure something out in the next coming days. Now that I mentioned it, though, there is one more blaster that's very similar to the barrel strike in the Stockshot, which I have as well, but you're going to have to see another video for that one, unfortunately. So go ahead and click right here if you want to see the Stockshot and see what's different between that and the barrel strike. I'm Walcom S7. Let me know what you would use this blaster for down in the comment section below if you feel like there's any mod potential there that I'm missing or something I might have overlooked. I'm really, really looking forward to see what you guys can come up with, so let me know down in those comments. And of course, if you think it's absolutely useless, much like I myself, then just hit the dislike button. And I mean, I'm useless, not that I think it's useless, because I actually think it's really cool until I take out the Stockshot and see how much cooler that is, because honestly, my opinion is kind of way on the Stockshot, but I haven't taken it out of the box yet. Thank you very much for watching this video, and of course, I hope to see you in an entirely different one.